PLA the other day, yesterday, with my friend Tavis Smiley. I'm an investor and a supporter of that station. And he said, who do you want to run the president? I mentioned, I think you'd be good at the job. Not this year, we know. No, I know. But he said, I don't think he could win. I don't think he could win. He's too progressive coming from this state and what he's done in this state to win in any southern state, any red state. I disagreed, but now this is a progressive African-American owned station, and I'm sure they like you.
Bill Maher just exposed Gavin Newsom live on television for destroying California, and he didn't hold back. On his talk show Real Time, Maher confronted the governor face-to-face with the failures of his state, from homelessness and taxes to crime and mass migration. And in the middle of it all, Maher even got Newsom to admit something far more explosive, that the Democratic Party itself is starting to fall apart. What unfolded wasn't political banter. It was an unfiltered reckoning that left the audience stunned and the internet buzzing. Let's be clear, when Bill Maher decided to go after Newsom, it wasn't random. California's decline has become the elephant in every national conversation. The state once sold as a progressive paradise is now battling the reputation of being expensive, chaotic, and unlivable for the middle class. Under Newsom's leadership, homelessness has surged to over 180,000 people, the largest in the country, despite billions spent on housing programs that rarely
have already proven their incompetence and poor leadership during the Los Angeles wildfires. Now, as we experience rampant lawlessness and civil unrest, it's never been more clear they're unable to respond effectively and responsibly during calamity. Whether it's sheer incompetence or outright malevolence, the reality is stark. California's in a state of turmoil, and I ask my fellow Angelenos, why are Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass still in office? How much more of their destructive decision-making masquerading as leadership?
Major cities like Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Oakland have become symbols of dysfunction. Businesses such as Tesla, Oracle, and Hewlett-Packard have packed up for Texas and Nevada, and families have followed. Crime, especially property and retail theft, has spiked so severely that national chains like Walgreens and Target have resorted to locking up basic products behind glass or closing stores altogether. Meanwhile, California's taxation system, with a top marginal income rate pushing 13.3%, the highest in the nation, fuels resentment even among liberals. Maher himself, who's lived in Los Angeles for years, has publicly mocked the absurdity of paying top-tier taxes to live amid crumbling infrastructure and sprawling encampments. This wasn't new territory for him. For months, he'd been dropping hints that the state's progressive policies had shifted from idealism to delusion. That's the backdrop Newsom walked into. He was there defending California as proof that the blue state model works, citing innovation, GDP growth, and environmental leadership.
I think we have way too many regulations and laws, as we've talked about. And this one, I think, says if you're a department store with over 500 employees, you have to have a gender-neutral toy department. Stuff like that.
Yeah, I get it.
So do you think that's silly? Do you think that's a silly thing? Then that we too much government there.
That's an interesting one because the department stores came to us supporting that, and they were the ones making a case for that. They were making a case they're already moving in that direction.
Wanted you to make a law about them?
Well, they supported the legislation. It wasn't legislation that was enacted, that was initiated from my office, but it was legislation that came up with interesting support.
But Maher, representing the growing liberal skepticism, wasn't buying it. This wasn't a Republican grilling him. This was one of Hollywood's most notorious truth-tellers turning his sharpest blade inward. When the segment aired, commentators didn't call it a debate. They called it a reckoning. The moment Maher leaned forward, you could feel the temperature drop. "You're running the state that everyone's leaving," he said flatly. No fluff, no setup. He didn't even smile. The comment hit like a punch. Newsom, clearly prepared, replied that California still leads in job creation and innovation, arguing that migration is exaggerated by conservative media. But Maher cut him off. "This isn't Fox News, Gavin. I'm talking about my friends, my neighbors. They're done paying top dollar to live in dysfunction." That's when the tone shifted from policy to reality. Maher pressed on homelessness, one of the most glaring indictments. He described the tents outside Beverly Boulevard, the smell, the sense of fear people feel walking downtown after dark. Newsom tried to spin it into a story of empathy and long-term reform. Maher wasn't having it. "You've been in office for years," he said, "and it's worse." The audience murmured, not in conservative applause, but in stunned agreement. Then came the taxes. Maher didn't rant. He dismantled. "You're bleeding the middle class," he said, pointing out that California ranks near the bottom in affordability. People making 80 grand can't even afford rent in LA. You tax them like they're rich, and in return, they get potholes and crime. Newsom responded with familiar refrains: reinvestment, infrastructure spending, equity programs. But Maher's expression said it all: disbelief, mixed with exhaustion. He wasn't speaking as a pundit. He was speaking as someone who loves the state but feels betrayed by its leadership. "How can you brag about GDP when people can't live with dignity?" Maher asked. "You talk about compassion, but we can't even drive to work without seeing despair on every block." That line struck a nerve because it captured what so many Californians feel: moral fatigue. It's not about ideology anymore. It's about survival. Can you afford to stay? Can you feel safe? Can you find basic sanity within the chaos? Newsom's defense, that California's big problems need big time, rang hollow, especially when paired with the cold math of population decline. Over 500,000 people left the state between 2022 and 2023. And Maher's closing point on taxes sealed the blow.
Sealed the blow.
The fear, the horror. The hell is this guy? Come after me, arrest me. Let's just get it over with. Tough guy. You know, I don't give a damn. But I care about my community. I care about this community. The hell are they doing? These guys need to grow up. They need to stop. And we need to push back. And I'm sorry to be so clear, but that kind of bloviating is exhausting.
Every time someone leaves, he said, that's a tax base walking away. That's your social program shrinking. You can't fund progressive ideals on the backs of fewer and fewer taxpayers. It was an indictment delivered with surgical precision. Newsom tried to recover, shifting to California's leadership in green energy, clean tech, and social policy. Maher nodded, then calmly replied, "I love all that. I love this state. But when the lights are off and everyone's moved to Austin, who are you leading?" The room went silent. It wasn't a gotcha line. It was truth, plain and brutal. Even some of Newsom's supporters online later admitted that Maher's points hit home because they weren't partisan, they were personal. In that moment, Maher became the voice of the disillusioned Californian, the liberal who still believes in progress, but not at the cost of competence. What unfolded was more than political theater. It was a public confrontation with failure, spoken by one of California's most famous residents to its most powerful defender, live and unfiltered. When Newsom tried to regain his footing, he leaned on what he always does: performance under pressure. He projected confidence, straightened his posture, and